Hello everyone and welcome to Virtual Sunday School this week. My name is Gideon George Sfinis and I teach Meson Boys at the parish of St. George, Rose Bay. Today's lesson begins with a story from a priest in Alaska by the name of Father Constantine Guest. Father Constantine was an Eskimo who looked after 12 parishes in a vast region of Alaska. During the summer months, he would travel throughout the region with a canoe made from sealskin, and in the winter with a dog sled. In the year 1956, this priest full of zeal visited an Orthodox village which did not have a church. The community was small and it did not have enough funds to build a church. As a result, Father Constantine organized for the local Eskimos to go on hunting expeditions for skins in order to buy the building material for the church. Within 2 years, the families of the village had built a beautiful Orthodox church. What a beautiful example of faith Father Constantine and our Orthodox brothers from Alaska give us. However, for us here in Australia, life is very different. We have many churches throughout our cities, and many of us have been going since we were babies. How do we see churches though? How much do we love them? When we enter them, do we enter with the utmost respect? Do we know the different parts of the church? Let us look at every section of the church and see what the purpose of each section is. When we first enter the church, we notice the narthex, or the section in front of the church. In the early church, this part was used for the unbaptized because they were not allowed in the main part. Two of the most common things we do when we enter the narthex is to light candles and venerate the icons. But are we aware of the symbolism of these things? Let us look more closely at the symbolism here. We venerate icons in the narthex as gestures of respect and love towards the person depicted in the icon. We never worship the icons. Worship is for God alone. Venerating is a gesture of respect towards whoever is depicted in the icon. When we venerate icons, we may ask the saint depicted to intercede for us to God or to assist us in the way we should lead our lives. Candles, and more specifically the light that shines forth, is very symbolic in our faith. Jesus said in John chapter 8, verse 12, "I am the light of the world. He who follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." When we light a candle in the narthex, it presents us with the opportunity for a time of prayer, where we can reflect upon the salvation that the Lord has worked for us, whilst it can also remind us to be children of God. As we pass from the narthex, we enter what is called the nave. The nave is the biggest space in the church, and it is where we have the seats where the people sit. The word nave comes from the Latin term navis, which means ship. This is symbolic, as the church building can be seen as an ark of salvation. Where we enter, we are saved from the many temptations in the world. The walls of the nave are normally covered with icons of saints. This is particularly inspiring for us when we enter church, as the saints were faithful men and women of God who came forth from the laity. Hence, we are reminded of their presence when we are in church. The nave also includes an area called the solaire, which is one step higher than the rest of the nave. On the front right, we have the bishop's throne. On the front left is the pulpit, where the deacon reads out the Holy Gospel and the preacher delivers his sermon. On the right, and next to the bishop's throne, is the area referred to as the analoio or psaltiri, the area where chanters stand. In front of the solaire are a wall of icons known as the templo or the iconostasi, which separates the nave from the altar. On the templo are usually 3 doors. The central door is known as the Beautiful Gate or the Orea Pili in Greek. This door can only be used by the priests and ordained deacons. Any other person who has the blessing to be in the altar must use the 2 doors on either side, known as the angel doors, as they often depict archangels Michael and Gabriel. The icons which appear on the templo also follow a specific pattern. If you're in the nave and you're looking towards the templo, On the right-hand side of the beautiful gate, you will find the icons of Christ and St. John the Baptist. On the left-hand side of the beautiful gate, there is an icon of Panagia, always shown holding Christ, and then the icon which the church is named after next to her. The holy altar, which stands behind the temple, is 3 steps higher than the soler. Only a priest can enter, as well as those who help him, the Nokoro altar boys. In the holy altar is the holy table, which symbolizes the grave where Christ was buried and where the mystery of Holy Communion takes place. On the left-hand side, as can be seen in this photo, is the prothesi, where the preparation of Holy Communion takes place. Before we finish, let us talk about the way we should behave, not only in the church during a service, but also while passing a church. As a mark of deep respect, we should perform the sign of the cross when we pass in front of a church. Whilst inside a church, you will notice in the first litany of the Divine Liturgy that we pray for those who enter into the house of the Lord with faith, reverence, and the fear of God. This is the exact attitude we are to have when we enter church, whether it is to a Divine Liturgy, a Vespers service, or even when there is no service. You need to know that we do not show God our love, fear, and respect only with prayer. We also need to use our body language. Standing is the proper posture of worship in the Orthodox Church. Traditionally, churches had no pews or chairs, and many Russian Orthodox churches even today have no pews. Standing is a sign of reverence and honor towards God. Over time, the custom of sitting down crept in, and the church has allowed sitting at certain parts of the liturgy. But there are some parts of the liturgy, such as the beginning of the liturgy, the small and great entrances, and the gospel, where we are to stand. When we perform the sign of the cross, we do it properly. Our thumb, index finger, and middle finger join together, and we touch our forehead, signifying that we love God with all our mind. Then we touch the breast, illustrating that we offer to God all our desires and feelings. Then we touch our shoulders, from right to left, showing that our physical activity belongs to Him. The sign of the cross is significant as it shows that we belong to Christ. We feel safe under the protection of the cross. We have accepted to carry our own cross that Christ has given each and every one of us. As we have seen, the church is something important in our lives and needs to be respected and preserved accordingly. Every time we go to church, we should have the same passion and attitude that Father Constantine from Alaska had. How wonderful are all the things that happen in the Orthodox Church. That is why churches are built in the middle of cities. In amongst our houses, our schools, and our work, Christians try to build beautiful temples which have been designed well, architecturally, artistically, and aesthetically. That is why Orthodox Christians feel a sense of tranquility when in church. In church, one has a strong sense of the presence of God.